Hello and welcome to this session. We are now updating the layout component. In the layout component, we are adding two new elements. Number one, the breadcrumbs up here. So this helps us keep track of a path if we are traveling deep into an object. And down here we have a simple selector. So of course that's another important element that you've seen before under the data sets. In this case, it was only invoked when we called on the add table editor. Now we want to use the table selector, or not table selector, but we want to be able to create a selector and use it for also controlling our layout. So let's first look at the breadcrumbs. So to create breadcrumbs, so of course we are in the layout section. And if we go into the method that draws the layout for us, we'll find that the breadcrumb is here. So we add AUE breadcrumbs, and we provide the path, and we also provide click handlers here. So the click handler decides what to do when the user clicks on one of the elements in the breadcrumb. So for example, if we have an interface loaded that corresponds to this, if we click back here, then the interface should change down here depending on what that option is supposed to show. And similarly, if the user clicks there, then he or she would be able to view what the interface that corresponds to that as well. You can also imagine that under each of these, if you imagine this as a big tree, under the first option we have ASD, and there may be multiple other possibilities, and we could list all those here. So we could have that ASD and then option 2, option 3. So if we click here, we could further subselect, and so that's how we can really control our way through a tree. So if you view the whole system as a tree, you should be able to create a navigator out of this. And in an upcoming development, we'll probably create something that makes it easy to do that kind of thing, so that it's already pre-built. But anyway, for now, breadcrumbs in general, if you want to lay out a breadcrumb trail, then you use this option. So you simply you use the same syntax as before. You provide an ID slug here, that's your name for the object you are creating. And then, as I say, this is of type breadcrumbs. And then you specify the path, which has to be a vector. So you provide each of the elements in that path, and then you specify a function which will act on this. So the first argument to the function will be a path. And in fact, if we want to view what's going on there, let's just bring up the console. So the console lets us view what's going on behind the scenes. So if we click on this option, let's say, you can see the array just says QWE, and then the selected element is QWE, and that's at position 0. If we click on ASD, then you see now we have QWE and ASD, and then ASD by itself, because that's the one we clicked on, and that's position 1. If we click on ZXC, then you see the full path is there, and then ZXC and the index. So the first argument gives us the path to whatever object we are examining. So that's the path, and then this specifies the element that was clicked on, and that specifies the index of that element in the path. So with that information, we can design for ourselves some kind of callback that may cause something else to render on the screen, or it will switch back. So we would have to write some code in to figure out, all right, my length of the array is only 2, and I've clicked on ASD in this case, and so I know what I want to render on the screen. So we can use the breadcrumbs to encode that logic, and you can control all that through here. So number 1, you lay out the path, and then number 2, you provide a function So here we are just outputting to the console what the values are. You would replace this part by the logic that takes action on the path selection. And by the way, of course, we could re-render the breadcrumbs. So if there's some other action that's taken that is going to change the path completely, then we can simply update. To create the selectors, let's close the console. To create the selectors, we use quick select. So this is in contrast to what we might be used to doing, which is using a dot add. So anyway, we just say quick select. We provide the viewport where we want this to be drawn in. We provide the options. So we can provide the options as an object, and we use a key and a label. And so the label will be shown, but when we click on it, if we go ahead and include a callback, then that will take action when the user clicks on one of these options. So if we include here callback function vals, and then again if we use the console logging, then that will show us what happens when the user clicks on that. Try it out. Let's open up the console again, and if we click on option 2, then you can see this is the data that's returned. So there's a fair amount of data that comes back, the important one being the key. So once we know that's the option selected, the label can be useful as well, but this is the main one. So once we know that's the option that's selected, then we can encode the logic for taking further action there. So in our code in here, we might include an if statement. So if a particular value or val.key is selected, then we could go and render something else on the screen and so on. So those are the two new elements in this update, the vertical selector and the breadcrumbs.